Okay, we are live, but y'all know the drill. We gotta
Breathe.
let the stream breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We got to make sure we've got our
Woosah.
That's right.
Woosah.
Our Facebook community with us. Goose Fraba. Trivia. What movie is that from, dude?
I don't know. You stumped me.
Anger Management, dog.
It is. Okay. It was in the recesses of my mind somewhere.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my fellow football priest. He is the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, I thought it was interesting that, today was, I think it was John brought it to our attention. Juan James fired off a somewhat cryptic tweet. Kind of made us wonder what's going on here. And then, of course, there was some clarity later on about what is going on between Juwan James and the Denver Broncos. And you had the story. Explain to people what that was all about, because I know a lot of fans saw those tweets.
Yeah, Juwan James went on Twitter today and tweeted without any explanation it was meant to happen. And that sent Broncos Twitter into a tizzy as to what that could mean, because now, Chad, in the social media age, any tweet that's not directed at a certain person or certain entity is dissected. Look at the Deshaun Watson future tweets he's been tweeting lately and how much that's been combed over. But he tweeted that, and then a couple hours later, or 70 minutes later, in fact, Mike Kliss of 9 News said it was unrelated to his status with the Broncos. So it meant nothing there, nothing burger, as they call it. And then actually Juwan James himself later clarified, because he heard and saw all the acrimony he was getting in his Twitter replies. He said it was nothing. It was a Drake line. Relax, LOL. What's meant to be in life is meant to be. That actually doesn't really, calm the fires anymore, Chad. Someone who played a handful of snaps, 60-something, 63 snaps, 66 snaps in 2019. He made over $200,000 per snap, and then he opted out last season. You shouldn't even be subtweeting, or you shouldn't even be cryptically tweeting anything right now, considering your status with the team. Last month, Garrett Bowles said that he has to earn back the trust of the locker room, Juwan James. He has to earn back his eyebrows, Chad, and the trust of the locker room together. He's not on good standing at all. He also knows, though, he can tweet these things because the Broncos are contractually bound to him for this season. They would incur a $19 million dead money hit by moving on from Juwan James, so he can make these statements. He can say these things, but it's just a little tone deaf considering he's contributed nothing. He's stolen millions upon millions of dollars from the Broncos the last couple years, and he's tweeting Drake lyrics? Why?
Yeah. He just turned out to be quite the dramatic person. You know what I mean? Like, just a drama. I don't want to call him a drama queen. I want to show him at least some respect, but we'll say a drama king. All right. A guy that, when the Broncos signed Juwan James, there was that report, and I'll never forget it, Zach, because we were both on the Broncos beat back when MHH was on 24/7 Sports. And you had the story about the whoopee cushion, right? Miami Dolphins and clowning the Denver Broncos for giving Juwan James all that money. And at the time, it was concerning. We were both like, yeah, geez. But we're like, we're not going to read too far into it. Turns out that was absolutely true. And the thing that to this day, Zach, blows my mind the most about the Broncos paying Juwan James, it's not that they were interested in him, because he is a very talented athlete and a very talented tackle when he's on the field. What blows my mind is the intangibles in his reputation and the injury milking and all that stuff. You would have thought that Chris Cooper, who was the O-line assistant coach in Miami, could have offered some kind of insight on this cat's character, work ethic, commitment, passion for the game, whatever you want to call it, to John Elway and company. But didn't happen, I guess, or they ignored it. I mean, take your pick.
Or, he could have advocated for him, but how do you see that coming? He didn't play through his injuries in 2019. Some people felt he could have played through his knee. Some people felt he was milking that to get more money and to collect a paycheck. But then it was really opting out last season, Chad, when he really had no specific condition to do so. It was his right, don't get me wrong. It was a lot of players' rights, but even a guy like Von Miller, who has asthma, did not opt out. A lot of players with pre-existing conditions did not opt out. And after playing only 63 snaps and making over $200,000 per snap, you opt out. It just sends the wrong message, and Cooper could have only advocated for so much. I don't think anyone saw the disaster of Juwan James to this extent coming to the Broncos.
Guys, we have a great show planned. Tonight is another installment. We are in the off season, and every Wednesday, I should say, we have plans to host a superstar, one of our great supporters from the YouTube community, and we'll also start including some of our supporters on Facebook on these superstar segments. And tonight, of course, it's going to be the great one and only Mount Rushmore member of this community, David Kilgore. We can't wait to talk to him, introduce y'all to David. It's going to be a gas. But first, we do have to take care of a few matters of business, starting with the sponsor and presenting sponsor, in all actuality, of tonight's live stream podcast, Manscaped. Listen up, gang. 2020, it's in the books. Forget about it. We're in 2021, and you got to embrace that new year, new me mindset. And I'm sure a lot of you have, and I know a lot of you have. You've reached out to me. And let me know some of your resolutions and what you got going on in your life, what you're striving toward, what you're pushing for. Manscaped can help you take that to the next level. All right. And it's not just because of what it does to keep your male grooming on point, Zach, but it's really just putting you in that headspace where you're trying to elevate your game.
Right. And, we always talk about the undercarriage and male grooming, and that's what this is tailor-made to do. But anyone like me, I want to speak to you for a second. If you have a beard, guys, if you grow facial hair and it grows back really fast like mine does, this is an essential tool, the lawnmower. It's not just for your underneath parts. You can use it on your face, in the shower. It gets wet. It has a light. It has a good grip on your neck, all parts of your body. But I find myself cleaning up underneath my neck area a lot with Manscaped. It's quick. It doesn't stick to you. It doesn't hurt. There's no bumps. There's no cuts. It's really painless. It feels good in your hand. It holds a charge forever. Trust me, I am a relatable guy in the truest sense. If you have that situation or any situation at any part of your body, Manscaped is the tool to take care of that.
And they got the weed whacker for your nose and your ears, as Zach just mentioned. You got the lawnmower for everything else. Plus, there are just a plethora of options for male grooming to help take it to the next level. And I've been clued into some of these that I was frankly ignorant of before we landed Manscaped as a presenting sponsor. And I consider myself edified now that I am fully aware of what kind of options are out there to help you be on point, not just below the waist, but just your male grooming overall. So right now, gang, you got to get in on that. And it's the best time to do it, because if you use the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com, you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. And trust when we tell you, your boys, your family jewels, they'll thank you.
Yes, sir. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code HUDDLE.
All right. A couple quick things, and then we're going to grab David. We got to announce, well, first of all, we hope that you have followed the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page, which is just in its infancy. We only started this thing, I want to say now it's been 2 weeks and some change ago. And so many of you have headed over there and supported what we're doing, following the page. We need you to continue to do that, because we have some big plans for that page in 2021, some great content, and you're not going to want to miss that. And one of the ways we're trying to incentivize our great community, and not only incentivize, but small way of giving back and saying thank you, doing MHH swag giveaways. All right, we've been telling you for the last couple of weeks. Head on over there, like and follow the page. All right, it's pretty easy to find. I'll put the link in the chat so you can just click and open, like, follow. You're done. But it's easy to follow, easy to find. We have randomly selected a winner for this week's giveaway for the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page. And that person is Jacob Roper. Now, Jacob Roper is a name when this came out of the old, we use a randomizer machine that we found on the internet, take all the names, put it in there. When Jacob's name came out, Zach, I was actually like, oh, that's rad, because Jacob is a big time supporter of MHH on Facebook. And so I was happy to see him land this. So Jacob Roper, here's how you claim your prize, my dog. Reach out via email. Send an email to Zach and I, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. We'll want to know your T-shirt size and your shipping address, and we're going to get you a Huddle Up Podcast Football Priest T-shirt shipped out to you post-haste. So congrats on that. Thank you for following. And guys, this is going to be a continual thing we're going to be doing. So head on over. Make sure you've got your bases covered. If you follow and like the Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page, you'll be automatically entered into every time we do one of these drawings each and every week. Also, worth mentioning, follow the podcast on Twitter. So many of you have, but as this show and this channel, especially on YouTube, continues to grow exponentially, we got to make sure everyone knows how to connect with us to keep the conversation going. On Twitter, it's at Huddle Up Pod, also at Mile High Huddle. My partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL. Myself, at Chad and Jensen. And then, of course, our producer, at John K. MHH on Twitter. Also, just a very brief, if you do want to get in on the swag action, you want to get a hat, you want to get a t-shirt, just go to huddleuppod.com, get your swag on. It's really easy. And we thank every one of you that made that. We did not expect that site to blow up, Zach, the way it did in 2020. Talk about a pleasant surprise. So thanks to everyone that has patronized our merch store, but it's out there. You can get some swag, you can get some gear. And consider also, guys, becoming a Facebook supporter of MHH. You get access to our premium VIP video content, starting with our launch show for the premium side, Kelberman's Corner, which is going to be episode 8 on Sunday, noon Mountain Time. Hot takes that hold water. Zach's got something he's cooking up, he and Kim Becker, for Sunday. If you want in on that, go to our Facebook page, click on the big blue button. You can become a supporter. But if you're not in a position to do those things, it's all good. Please just subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed. Like this video, guys. I got to repeat that. Like this video. It's a small thing you can do to help us in a big, bad way. And then the third thing is share it. All right. If we're doing a good job for you, share this video out there and help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. All right. Let me bring on David Kilgore in the house. I know it's shocking. All of a sudden, boom, you're on screen. David Kilgore, who's been with us a long, long time. Very dedicated, very engaged, very supportive member of our community. And when we say that this is a Mount Rushmore superstar, you all know that it's true. This guy is in the chat every single podcast, come rain, sleet, snow, whatever. And we have been stoked and excited to finally get you on the show. So David, welcome to the Huddle Up podcast. Thanks for giving us some of your time. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been really, really nice to be on this side of it now.
Zach, this was your idea, so I'm going to open with this volley. We usually open with something else when we get one of our superstars on screen, but we noticed before we went live, Zach did anyway, hey, what jersey you wearing there? And he's wearing the Champ Bailey, is David, the Champ Bailey jersey. And hey, yesterday was I can't remember the years. Well, let's see, what was it? 02, 03, so 04. So was that 16th anniversary of the Champ Bailey for Clinton Portis trade? And so thinking back to that time, David, first and foremost, what do you remember about that trade? What was your initial reaction? And then how do you view that trade for the Broncos in retrospect?
I initially thought I was still getting to know the Denver Broncos and was kind of in my infancy as far as my being a huge fan. But loved to do research and knew all the players on the Broncos and all of a sudden they came over the wire that Clinton Portis had been traded for Champ Bailey, and I'm like, well, who the heck is Champ Bailey, and why the heck are we giving up Clinton Portis? And obviously history was that Portis did good in Washington and Bailey did awesome in Denver, so it worked out obviously. But initially I was pretty kind of upset at the Broncos because I was like, why are we giving up our starting running back for some corner I've never even heard of? So
what was your what do you remember about that trade, Zach? I know it's many moons ago, but what was your reaction?
I remember I was in high school. I'm not, trying to give my age away, but I was very young, and this was a time where, there were cell phones, but when you had internet service, it took like 8 minutes for a page to load. I remember there was an alert that came through. I forget, what I was doing at that moment, but I remember thinking, wow, player for player trade. Even back then I had this thought, Chad, to show you how ingrained I was in the NFL from a young age. Player for player trades were so rare in the NFL. So when I saw Champ Bailey for Clinton Portis swap, I'm like, I kind of had the same thought as David. I'm like, why are they making this trade? Like, why would the Broncos and why would the then Redskins, don't kill me, guys, want to make that swap? But I just remember all the talking heads clamoring about how big of a deal it was, and it was a rare trade that worked out for both teams. Both players had success for both organizations, but Bailey, I think, was a little better in Denver.
I'll tell you where I was, boys. I was back in those days. Again, as Zach said, it was before before the internet became a instant like commodity where it's on your hip at all times. You can, what I would do is, I can't remember. I think it was Tuesdays. Is when this published and hit the gas stations or the grocery stores. The Sporting News, the hard copy paper called the Sporting News. I would go down to the day it hit the shelves, and I want to say it was Tuesday. Grab the Sporting News, and the reason I would get the Sporting News is not just to read the articles, but that's the only place I knew where I could get. They kept little records of the individual, rushing leaders, passing leaders, receiving leaders, sack leaders, and all that, and then team and so that's how I was keeping tabs on how the Denver Broncos were doing. And I remember going down that day and picking up the paper, Broncos trade Portis. I'm like, what the heck? And if you think back on it, I don't want to derail our conversation with David too much on the Portis trade, but if you think back on it, it was all about in 2002, 2003. 2003, Jake Plummer comes to town. The Broncos make the playoffs as a wild card, get trounced. I mean, absolutely embarrassed and blown out of the water. Keep that up. We'll grab that one next, John. Absolutely blown out of the water by Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, before he became a Denver Bronco, was known as the Bronco Killer. Like, he just dunked on the Broncos every chance he got. And so Mike Shanahan goes, I got to do something. I got to do something to counter the Peyton Manning Star Wars attack. And so when the opportunity came to deal away Clinton Portis for Champ Bailey, he took it. So I can understand it now in retrospect, and obviously I think the Broncos won that trade. Pretty obvious, but it still smarts just a little bit. Now, Albert Knopper is one of our great supporters on Facebook. He's got a specific question for you, David. Broncos hold the number 9 overall pick in the first round. What do you want to see happen? Who would you draft at number 9?
Well, as a general football fan, I kind of see myself in two lights here. As a general football fan, I would really like to see them, draft a quarterback. I was telling John earlier that I'm an all-around football fan. I like high school and college, and I really like Trevor Lawrence, and I really like to see the quarterback from BYU, Wilson. So in my heart, as a general football fan, I know that's not going to happen. So I would say, as a general football fan, I would really like for them to pick Farley, because I do know we need corner help. But as a Bronco fan, yeah, I'm all in on Will. I would love to have Zach Wilson. I think he's going to be special. Like, I think Lawrence is going to be special. And I think he would do very, very well in our system.
David, I want to kind of change gears and go back for just a second. We always like to ask our guests, did you grow up in Colorado? If so, how did you become a Broncos fan? What led you to this team? And along those years, along that journey, what has been your favorite memory and what has been your worst memory?
Well, it's kind of a funny story, Zach. When I was a young kid, I remember I actually grew up in Southeast Kansas. I live here in Western Kansas now, but I grew up in Southeast Kansas in a little tiny town, and all of my family, and don't shoot me, everyone, but all of my family were Chiefs fans, and my mom and my dad and my sister and friends and other family members, everybody rooted for the Chiefs, and of course I had to be the rebel, and I remember, we'd all watch football games, and it always had to be the Chiefs, of course, but I'd try to watch another game or so at the time, and really liked seeing John Elway and really liked the Broncos. And so I'm like, well, the Chiefs fans don't like Broncos, so I'll be a Broncos fan. And of course, I couldn't, they wouldn't let me watch any Bronco games. And finally had a very good friend of mine who was a big Denver fan, and so we'd get together and watch Denver games. So that was kind of the way I became a diehard Broncos, is just kind of to be the rebel against the parents. So, but my fondest memory, obviously, is Elway's very. It's kind of cliche, but it's Elway's very first Super Bowl win. I mean, I again growing up, I remember Elway getting to the Super Bowl and just falling short, and then we get back to the Super Bowl and he'd fall short, and then he finally gets it, and that was just awesome, and you knew he wanted it. The this one's for John. I mean, the whole Denver nation was just ecstatic, and he was very awesome. My poorest memory, I'd say, is the Super Bowl that we lost to the Seattle Seahawks. And I just thought sure we could beat Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I thought we had an awesome defense then, and Vaughn was going to have at it with Russell Wilson, and obviously it didn't come to be. But that was pretty poor because I got teased for the next couple weeks after that about how the Seahawks beat my Broncos. So it was pretty bad.
We got a super chat here from a fellow superstar, Chris Hernandez, who we are excited to have back on the show in the very, very near future. He raises his mug to you. He says, David, cheers. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, my friend. It sounds like, David, that you are of the opinion. I got one more for you, and then we'll cut you loose here. It sounds like you're kind of ready to turn the page on the Drew Lock experiment, for lack of a better term. You like the Zach Wilson from BYU. You like some of the prospects in the class. I'm guessing you're really high on the prospect anyway of landing a Deshaun Watson via trade if that were to happen. Am I wrong on that? Do you still want to see Drew succeed in Denver? Or do you think, hey, look, you had a shot, didn't happen, time to move on?
I'm almost kind of with the opinion of Zach that I would love to have Deshaun Watson. But darn, I just think 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round, that's a lot. And if we could get him for cheaper, yeah, go for it. In all instances, hell yeah, I mean, go for it. So, but I don't think it's going to happen just because he's going to be too expensive. But as far as Drew Lock, I wish he could work out. I like to give him another chance, but I don't know if I'm ready for another losing season. And I kind of have a fear that if we do put Lock in there, and he's our starter, that we just may not have a very successful season. And it kind of scares me that aspect. And it'd be really bad. It'd be really kind of horrible to see, especially the Chiefs, go on and win again. So, any quarterback or anybody that we could get to try to topple the Chiefs, I would be all in favor for. But I think Locke is. I don't think he's going to be there. I think we've seen enough of him, and I think it's pretty much time to move on.
David, how hard did you dunk on your family after the Super Bowl, after the Bucs won? Did you just stick it to them, or how hard did they dunk back at you because the Chiefs won the year before? How did that go?
Oh yeah, it was very laughable. And of course, when they won the year before, obviously they all threw it in my face. Ha ha, we won. Denver didn't even make the playoffs, and blah blah blah. And my fire back was, that was your first one in how many years? 50 years. So
50 years, yeah.
Please. And then they made it back, and of course then they got to play the Buccaneers, and which is I lived in Florida for a few years, and was not very far from Tampa, and so had a lot of my wife's family that were big Buccaneers fans, and so they were all asking me if I was going to go for the Bucs, and I'm like, against the Chiefs, yes, definitely. So even though I didn't like Brady, couldn't really stand Brady from all the times he was a Patriots fan, I was a Brady fan that day. So,
well, David, thank you so much for giving us some of your time and for all of your support over these last couple of years. And I mean, seriously, from the bottom of our heart, we just appreciate you more than we can say. And it really is a joy and a pleasure to get to know you and have you on the show. And we hope that at some point later on in this off season, we can move some schedules around and get you back on the show on one of these Wednesdays. But thank you so much for spending some time with us and for all you do and what you mean to Mile High Huddle.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. I've been loved watching your shows and I've been a big fan of the Broncos and Zach and Zach used to watch you back in the Facebook Live days, and then
another one came a long way, David, didn't we?
When you had moved on from that company, I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? And
appreciate that.
I found you on this and became a fan ever that. So it's been fun, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me and having the time to have me on.
Thank you, David.
Buddy. Well, guys, he's on Twitter. Connect with him, right? Let's keep all of the hashtag state of being members of Broncos country, woven together on social media, as you can see on the screen there. And for those listening after the fact on demand, at Rocking K77. That's David Kilgore. David, give our best to your family, and we'll talk to you soon.
Will do, guys. Thank you. Take care.
All right, buddy. There you
Chiefs
go.
suck.
Yeah, Chiefs.
FTC.
David Kilgore. Man, he was a neat guy. Before we went live, we got to know him a little bit, like with his family and what he does for a living. And we're not going to talk about that because that's his personal stuff that he might not want us to talk about. But just a joy when I say that, that we really get a thrill and a true pleasure from getting to know each and every one of our supporters, man. It's just really cool. Really cool. And as you said, Zach, another OG dating back to the 24/7 Facebook page days. I mean, it's just cool how I guess it's a smaller world than you realize, right?
It's humbling. They put the support in supporter, Chad, and people like David. He's so overwhelmingly supportive of the podcast, and all of our listeners are. We can't thank you guys enough. It seems like platitudes or it seems like cliches, but people like David and every single person we talk to, it's just so overwhelming and so humbling. So thank you, sincerely.
John, I am going to talk about this Tim Patrick story, but there is a super really early from Fat Cats. If you can grab that one, and then I've got there he is. Cool. We'll grab Fat Cats, and then I want to grab this PFF Tim Patrick spat. All right, we'll talk about it. Fat Cats, really appreciate you, man. You really have come on strong the last couple of months, and it's really, we see you. We've been impressed. Thank you so much for your support. He says, if both top corners are available at pick 9, who do you take? Excuse me, and why? Patrick Surtain of Alabama, seems more complete, but Caleb Farley of Virginia Tech has freakish athleticism. Curious to hear your thoughts. Yeah, I really think that it's what's more important to you, the higher floor or the higher ceiling? Because Surtain definitely has the higher floor. He's a more polished product right now, even though he's not the greatest scheme fit for Fangio. There's no doubt in my mind Surtain could flourish and play very, very well and be a stud for Vic Fangio. Like, that's not even something I'm tripping on too much. Whereas Caleb Farley, though, his ceiling, Zach, it's so, as an athletic freak, I mean, Fat Cat said it. It's just so much higher that you really have a chance to draft what could be like one of the next great shutdown type corners who does happen to have a better propensity, better scheme fit for Fangio. But again, to me, it's actually pretty negligible that because they're both such talented prospects. But I'm taking Farley there. I'm swinging for the fences. Now, if you're inclined to kind of play it safe and just get the guy that you feel like has the higher floor, it's probably going to be Surtain.
You hit on it when you said scheme fit, because if you evaluate these two prospects in a vacuum, I mean, it's a win-win scenario for Denver. They need cornerbacks, and they're the two best cornerbacks in this draft class. But one of these guys, Farley, is a lot better of a scheme fit for Vic Fangio's system. And Fangio is still the head coach, and it might not be the case next year, but in his defense, he needs certain cornerbacks that have certain skill sets. And Caleb Farley, to me, Chad, is the cornerback one. Will I cry? Will I be mad if it is Surtain at number 9? No, I will not. They need cornerbacks, and he is right there. But it's almost like separating in this quarterback class, Trevor Lawrence versus Zach Wilson, or Zach Wilson versus Justin Fields. Depending on your system, depending on the coaching staff, either quarterback can be a win for you, or either quarterback could be, not the quarterback that you need. Same situation here.
Well said. Real quick, we would be remiss to not say happy birthday to another MHH superstar in our community, Muhammad Badri. Happy birthday, dude. Hope you had a great day, and appreciate you, man. Happy birthday.
How old, Mo? Let us know if you're around. I hope you're not around. I hope you're out and about celebrating right now, but I'd like to know how old you're turning, how many candles you're blowing out.
Tim Patrick and Broncos teammates Nuke PFF from Orbit on Twitter. Is it hyperbolic? I chose that title, okay? Is it a little extreme? I don't think so. I think they freaking clowned, especially Dalton Reisner. Pro Football Focus. And in this case, you can argue, was it justified? Tim Patrick, here's what happened, in case you guys missed it. All right. Pro Football Focus released a little Twitter card showing their 5, giving props and whatnot to the 5 wide receivers with the lowest drop rate in 2020. None of them had a drop rate of 0.0. But guess who did have a drop rate of 0.0, meaning he did not drop a single pass last year? That's Tim Patrick. So Tim, he sees that tweet, and here's what it looked like, all right? He says, my tweet must be coming soon since mine was 0.0%, right? And then Zach, it just gets funny from there because, first of all, turns out that PFF they chose an arbitrary level, right, for the cutoff. So in order to qualify, you got to have X amount of targets. I can't remember what it was. Was it 80 targets at least? I think that might be what the threshold was. Guess how many Timmy P had? 79. It's just ridiculous. So as Phillip Lindsey said to him on Twitter, quote, they only see what they want to see, close quote. And then Zach, this is what I love. His boys come to bat for him. Noah Fant says, man, he goes, this man, 0.0%. Then he's got the cry, laughy face. Facts, but you didn't have to include this 0.0 on him. And then Reisner says, PFF is fake news. Ha ha. Talk to him, toe tap. And I just love seeing it, dude. I love seeing Broncos close ranks around their own and go to war, go to bat for one of their own. And, you can pick a nit and say, look, Tim just missed out on the qualifier. Yeah, he was 0.0, but PFF, you had an opportunity to vault and to shine a light on a truly unique and praiseworthy, I should say, that's the word, performance of Tim Patrick last year. Instead, you basically snubbed him by choosing an arbitrary level of what qualifies target-wise. Didn't matter. He had 0.0. Didn't drop a pass.
The qualifier is you can't play for the Denver Broncos because PFF will ignore you. And they've become like Dalton Reisner. I'm so happy he's been saying that, or he said that now. It's a joke. They had Justin Simmons as his second-ranked safety overall, number 2 overall in 2019. He wasn't on their list of top 100 players. It's just more biased against Denver, and PFF has gone from a tool that players went out and sought, Chad. They would look for, they put so much credibility in, and now you have players like Dalton Reisner calling out for it being fake news. Imagine, though, not liking Tim Patrick. Imagine not thinking Tim Patrick is a starting caliber receiver in the NFL. His drop rate was comparable, meaning 0, to Larry Fitzgerald, a future Hall of Famer. Not saying he is that, but I love having TP on the team, Chad, and that's why I'm saying I wouldn't trade this guy. I wouldn't not tender him. I would be more inclined to give him an extension rather than let him walk or trade him away. He is invaluable. He has great chemistry with Locke. He has great chemistry with every quarterback. I had a tweet 3-4 months ago. Every quarterback he's been with the last couple of years, so there's been about 6 or 7 he has connected with. He has made a big play on. He is underrated as they come, Chad, but maybe now he's got some national shine. More people will put respect on TP's name.
I hope so. He deserves it. He deserves it. Burn the Guitarist, a.k.a. Zach. And by the way, a lot of you, those of you who are following on Mile High Huddle on Instagram, you saw the football pre-selfie that Zach sent in, a.k.a. Burn the Guitars. Appreciate the super chat, bro.
Great.
Appreciate you sending in that selfie. It was cool. It was very cool. He says, wow, it's almost like PFF has flawed metric standards. Zach, let me just read this to you real quick. This is, and by the way, great article by Keith Cummings of milehighhuddle.com. Go read it. But here's what Keith wrote. Quote, Patrick's 79 targets resulted in a career best 51 receptions for 742 yards and a team-leading 6 touchdown catches. Still, he narrowly missed out on account of PFF's list for not being targeted enough. And then he goes on. But, yeah, it's just arbitrary. I've stopped trying to explain or justify how and why PFF makes the decisions they do. But very much just like their grading system, Zach, it's all arbitrary. There's no way that there's no governing metric. Actually, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but nevertheless, PFF, the bloom's off the rose. You're right. It used to be that players actively sought out and clamored and strived to know and have a good PFF grade. And while I think there's still some truth to that, it's still important. I think once PFF decided to sell big packages to NFL teams, I mean, almost all NFL teams use PFF now for their advanced analytics. I don't think players care about it quite as much anymore.
It's almost like the metrics are subjective and not objective, Chad. It's almost like those metrics and those stats are from someone's brain, and that person has their own opinions and their own biases like anything else. Nothing is truly objective anymore. Politics, sports, everything bleeds into everything else, and that's why you can't believe or hear or trust in everything you see or read or hear.
The Queen from the top rope.
Wow.
Just showing how she earned that.
Queen. Yep.
That moniker and that honorary. Just appreciate you, Christy. Thank you so much. And, everything she contributes to our community. By the way, let's hammer this out right now. I know we went back and forth. We didn't actually book a time to have you back on, right? So let me just see here real quick. I want to make sure I'm not tripping. Let me see. Yeah. What about Monday next week? Let me know. All right. But she says it's that time of year. All tweets are considered hot news. Thanks, my guys. Keep up the good work. Yeah. And as much as we, Zach, as much as we sometimes roll our eyes at some of the stuff that we have to cover, I love covering it. I love turning over every stone and analyzing it from every angle. The offseason is my favorite time on the NFL calendar.
It's good for us in the business, but for the fans, it gets a little tedious, a little monotonous, Chad, hearing the same old things. And what Christy, I hope, is trying to advocate here is don't believe every rumor that comes out. Don't believe every bit of speculation that arises on Twitter. There's going to be a lot of it between now and this coming couple weeks between now and the draft. There's going to be a lot of it coming out. Let the big picture form instead of, just hopping onto every little tidbit that you hear about. But Christy, thank you so much. That's unbelievably generous of you. We love you, and I'm so proud of you.
Amen. Let me know about Monday. If not Monday, maybe Sunday. We have a superstar segment already booked Wednesday night, but let's like we did with Dylan, let's bring you on Monday night. So reach out, let me know. Appreciate you. Let's grab Javon real quick. I'm going to lose him, so I'm going to grab him real quick, John. Hold on one sec. Javon Eaton, who has come on very strong on Facebook. Really appreciate your support over there, buddy. He says, yo, what's up, gents? What are we doing with Phillip Lindsey this year? Hashtag state of being from Arizona. That's right, baby. Broncos country, not a geographic location. It's a state of being. What do you expect to happen? What do you expect to see happen, that is, Zach, with Phillip Lindsey?
There are some rumblings that the Broncos could choose not to tender him. He is an RFA, so they have to either tender him or let him become a free agent and not tender him. But why would they risk that? I know they obviously don't view him now as a 3-down workhorse running back. He might not even be long for Denver, considering now how he's speaking out against Pat Shurmur and the Broncos system. I think they will, though. They'll tender him. At the very least, they put a second round on him. They might look to flip him in the draft. I hope that's not the case, Chad, but you'd rather have him and have that leverage and have that capital versus not having. And even if you can't flip him, you have a game-breaking former Pro Bowl running back on the roster. And with Melvin Gordon's status up in the air, why would you want to play with fire and get rid of a homegrown guy who's been nothing but a spark to your team?
I think it would be the height of incompetence for the Denver Broncos to move on from one of their best offensive players. I think this time last year, you could make the argument, toss it up. Was Cortland Sutton or Phillip Lindsey the most impactful spark plug on that offense? To this day, I'm gonna hedge for Phillip Lindsey. Now, he had some bad luck with the injury bug this past season, and compounding that was just some very questionable roster decisions and let's just say not the greatest, as he critiqued only a week or two back, not the greatest scheme to player fit in terms of the offensive coordinator trying to scheme to accentuate Phillip Lindsey's strengths. Insides, basically run him between the tackles constantly. Anytime you go back and watch some of the highlights of Phillip Lindsey in 2020, all of his big plays, all is an absolute. Many of his big plays are the plays where he's allowed to use his talent, his skill, his quick twitch, his speed, his explosion, his instinct, his vision on the edges. And a lot of times you saw like a Dalton Reisner pulling and going right, and then boom, I want to see that. If you can do that, it's not rocket science, Pat Shurmur. But Phillip Lindsey, he's one of the most dynamic running backs in the league. Yes, he was hurt last year, but you would have to be an incompetent to say, look, I can get one of the best running backs in the league back in Denver at the cost of an RFA tender that's around $3 million. Sign me up. I'm doing it.
And let me just add one thing. Based on George Paton's history in Minnesota, I mean, that's an organization that valued running backs despite having an all-star. He had Latavius Murray. He had Dalvin Cook. Now he has Alexander Madison. So judging by his history there, it's a good bet that Phillip Lindsey will remain with the Broncos. We can only hope that, Chad, because he does a lot better for you on the field than off the team.
Michael Tindori? I'm not sure, but Michael, thank you for that super chat. Make sure you connect with us on Twitter. He says, I still have hope for Juwan James. The offensive line is only missing right tackle to be very good. That's true. I mean, if if the football god smiled upon you and you've got Juwan James to show up to work and he didn't get hurt, he's an upper echelon tackle, but those are some big ifs.
You also, it's not the only question mark. It's the biggest question mark, but Dalton Reisner's play wasn't great last year. Graham Glasgow has injury concerns. Muti's still raw. Garrett Bowles, as great as he was, is that going to hold up for years to come now, or is that just a one-year outlier? That's what we have to see. So there's many question marks, but far and away, Juwan James, him being the whoopee cushion, Chad, that is the pink elephant in the room.
Undoubtedly so. This is like the second time in the last week that I've gone live in my office and I forgot to grab my charger, have it plugged in, and then my lappy starts dying. Shout out to Orange Crush. Good to see you on Twitter. Appreciate you being with us tonight. All right, let me see where we're at here. Real quick, John. Team Jokic. Yeah, Christian, let me just do a quick look here on the back end. But there are a few other topics I want to get to. Of course, we always want to be in line with what's on your mind as our community. Yeah, so we got Chris, there's Dave Vega, there's Michaela, Team Jokic, Michaela again, Jesse, Michael again. There's quite a few stacked up. So if you need me to try and find stamps, let me know. There he is, Dave. Now, I'm curious, is it Vega or Vega? Because do you remember the movie Pulp Fiction? What was his name? Vincent Vega. That was his name. But they pronounced it Vega. So, Dave, I'm wondering if it's Vega. Appreciate the super chat. He says, if Garrett Bowles can turn it around, have faith in Drew Lock. Deshaun Watson is great, but the cost is large. If Micah Parsons, the Penn State linebacker, is there at 9, trade back, get capital. Grab, what's his name? Zayden, right? Collins, Asante Samuel Jr., and let's build Vega. Okay, cool.
You got the hashtag for you too, Chad.
Oh, he beat me to the punch. All right, that's sharing a brain. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, interesting you say that because Nick Kendall had a story today that was kind of riffing off something that James Palmer of NFL Network talked about on a recent sit-down that – he basically is saying, look, everyone's wondering, are the Broncos going to target a quarterback? Which corner is it going to be? Is it going to be Parsons at pick 9? He's like, don't be stunned if they trade back and stockpile picks. But that, to me, Zach, is all contingent on how this whole Deshaun Watson thing resolves.
It's something that George Paton told you himself that he prefers to do. So that's why it's part of the reason, not just the cost, but also looking at Paton's history and I think how he wants to run a franchise. He would sooner, I believe, based on what he's told us and how he's operated, trade back like the question posits there, Chad, stack the draft picks and have more darts at the dartboard because, again, I'll say it for the billionth time, this Broncos team has holes throughout the roster, not just under center.
Yeah, but yes, Savage Boy Kev, but people still got to guess, right? They're still guessing. Yeah. Got to keep them guessing.
Between those 2 years.
Barry wants to know on YouTube if Micah Parsons, the Penn State linebacker, is there at pick 9. Do we pull the trigger or stay with a corner? If the Broncos pick there at 9, it's because they didn't land Deshaun Watson. And so I'm going to tell you that depending on how, like if Zach Wilson falls, if either Zach Wilson or Justin Fields are there at 9, I wouldn't be stunned if they just grab one of those two quarterbacks. I don't think either will be there. So I'm saying it's going to be a corner. I really do. Their cornerback depth chart is just freaking ugly, dude. It's decimated. There's no depth. And the one guy that they have that has any veteran wherewithal is an injury case. He's never played a full 16 in Bryce Callahan.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a cornerback. And, considering Von Miller's criminal investigation now, would the Broncos want to take another linebacker that had some red flags off the field? And depending on how those clear up, Chad, it could get worse for Micah Parsons, but they might not want to gamble. And George Paton is a man of character and high integrity. He might want to go for the safer pick, and that would be Caleb Farley at number 9.
One of our longtime listeners and longtime superstars, Michaela Parker, she wants to know, cheers, fellas. Good to see you all. I think the Broncos' best bet is to roll with what was it? What was the autocorrect? With Locke. All right. I think the Broncos' best bet is to roll with Locke. Not a hater. Yeah, I'm not blind. I recognize the Broncos need better play and production from the quarterback position if they're going to climb out of the doldrums, to say nothing of actually contending with the Chiefs. But I still believe that Drew Lock could be that guy. And because the Broncos have gone this far with him, I think you go one last swing. You go one last time around the merry-go-round with Drew. Then you decide to blow it up. Now, if they had blown it all up, Fangio's gone. Shermer's gone. Peyton comes in, hires his own staff, hires his own coach. Then I would be a lot more amenable to the idea of just starting over and just trade Drew, give him a fresh start somewhere if you can. But they didn't. They kept Fangio for whatever reason. They kept Shermer for whatever reason. And I don't say that being negative. I'm saying, look, it was a unique situation. Usually when a GM gets hired, that GM is also given the prerogative of hiring, either deciding on whether or not do I keep the incumbent coaching staff or hiring his own guy. So I'm with you. I still think that the best bet is to roll with Locke and use this capital that you have right now with your salary cap and with the draft, Zach, build the nest. And it's the same principle as last year. # build the nest. If you can get a little bit of luck with regard to the injury bug, this team, if it's a Drew Lock week 11 on, which only won, they won the Miami game. I think they won 2 games of those final, that set from week 11 to week 17, if I'm not mistaken. But still, that wasn't Drew's fault that they didn't win every single game. All it takes is that version of Drew, Zach. You fill those holes. I think this is a team that can win 9-10 games, but you would still need a little bit of luck from the football gods.
And also, it's perfectly said, Chad. I just want to just add to it. We're not obviously advocating that Drew Lock is better than Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Watson's a better quarterback, but it's the cost that's prohibitive to acquire him. It's just a little too rich and, for my money, unrealistic for George Paton to make. And the other tail end to that is we don't know what Drew Lock is just yet. You can't label him one way or the other. He's not a franchise quarterback. We've all established that, but he's not a bust either. And most people already have it in their minds, for some people, that he's a bust. He's not yet. Give him 1 year if it works out that way under a level playing field, fair circumstances, and let's see how it plays out. If he's not the guy, he's not the guy. And like Chad said, they blow it up, everyone goes away, new quarterback, new head coach, and we'll see what happens.
I hope it's not like the Sopranos version of everybody goes away. You know what I mean? In fact, I was just watching I'm going back down the rabbit hole on Sopranos. I gotta cycle through that every 2 or 3 years and just binge on Sopranos because it's the greatest television show of all time.
Far and away. Chad, and there's a Talking Sopranos podcast every Monday that comes out. It's the only other podcast I listen to. I promise you, any Sopranos fans out there, it is legit. It's Chris and Bobby.
Christian, a.k.a. Team Jokic. Appreciate the super, my friend. And by the way, there was absolutely no hard feelings, dude. Trust. Don't ever worry about that. Unless it's like straight up hate, we're never going to take offense to a opposing viewpoint from anyone in our community that might say, "No, I don't look at it my way," or "I don't think you're on this with the right take." So don't worry about it, dude. But he says, "Hey, Zach, I know my comment seemed kind of harsh the other night, but was trying to get your opinion and see mine. And did you guys see the Juan tweet?" Yes. So yeah, I don't know about you, Zach. He's addressing you. No hard feelings for me, but your thoughts for Zach.
What was the opinion? What was the? I mean, I remember basically, us going back and forth. I don't know the exact question though. John, do you know?
I'll tell you what it was. He says
he has no idea either.
I'll tell you what it is. He said, I hate all the holes on defense narrative by only Zach last year. Our DVOA.
Oh, that. Okay. All right. Let me crack my knuckles right now. It's all good. I don't take it personally. I love the debate. I love the banter. If we all agreed on everything, this would be a boring AF show. Trust me on that. But there are holes on defense. I mean, that's indisputable to say. If you resign Shelby Harris, he's a free agent. I mean, you have to take care of him. But you have Jarrell Casey. He's a cut candidate. You want to get another defensive lineman. We all know they need another inside linebacker who can cover running backs and tight ends. You might need an edge rusher if Von Miller goes away. We all know they need cornerbacks. They might need a safety if they cut Kareem Jackson. They have to have a third safety, behind Jackson and Justin Simmons. Simmons is a free agent. He might, there's a chance he walks. There are holes on defense. I'm not saying they're a bad defense. I'm not saying they're incompetent, but they need starters and in some cases depth players. That to me, Chad, is fairly innocuous argument as well.
But yeah, dude, it's all good, Christian. And for those of you who missed it last night, hopefully none of you did, but if you did, Building the Broncos did a really good job, Nick and Carl, going through the Broncos' current defensive needs. And they have many. They really do. So that's why, for me, you want as many of those darts that you currently have as far as the draft picks that you own and the free agent dollars that you have to fill those holes, because it's not as, again, if we were talking about Drew Lock performing on like a Paxton Lynch level, then yeah, I mean, the writing's on the wall. Like, it's apparent, it's palpable, it's evident, it's obvious. But that's not what we saw. And in fact, Drew had some really impressive highlight moments. Question was consistency, but let's leave it there for now. Jesse, appreciate that super chat, my brother. Says head coach candidates, Zach, if Vic Fangio is not it. So maybe all the King's horses, all the King's men can't put this Broncos Humpty Dumpty together again, and Fangio is dispatched this time next year. Who do you like?
Anyone offensive. So Brian Daboll, Greg Roman, Kellen Moore, Eric Bieniemy. There's going to be a slew of offensive-minded head coaches in the Broncos. Whether he's younger, which I prefer, or a little older toward the Vic Fangio scale, you have to get an offensive guy in the building, because if Vic Fangio goes, it means a new quarterback is coming in as well, and they need to nail that, Chad, coaching and quarterbacking for the next regime if it comes to that. Brian Daboll is my, I think, number one choice, but Bieniemy, Roman, Kellen Moore, they're all, I would not mind any of them.
Thank you for the clarification, Michaela, and for the additional super chat. We love you. Appreciate you. Whoops. Sorry, that was my fault, John. Throwing back up there. We got Jesse. We need Michael, and then I've got John Houston. So from there, we should be pretty current for a minute, but if Michael's other one, there he is. Michael, appreciate you, dog. Drew has shown that he can be a dangerous player. Give him Cortland back, add James, and it'll look different, in my opinion. I still will take Deshaun. They'll talk about Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? Like, if you're looking at it, just all things being equal, who would not take, at this moment in time in the NFL continuum, Deshaun Watson over Drew Lock? Almost anybody, unless your last name is Lock, you're going to take Watson in that perfect world, right? But we don't live in the perfect world. Deshaun Watson comes at a very, very grievous cost. If Houston budges, which, as I said the other night, my thoughts on this from the first moment that there was buzz that Watson might want out, my initial reaction was, there's no way. I mean, John McClain of the Houston Chronicle said back then, I can't. And actually, hold on one sec. I want to grab this because this pretty well represents what my thoughts were on it. And John McClain is former president of the Pro Football Writers of America. He's a Hall of Fame voter. He's one of the most renowned NFL writers of all time, and very plugged in as an insider. And his exact tweet on this topic back in January, when the initial buzz, Zach, started on Watson wanting out, was, let me tell you what he said. He said, load now, let's go. He said, I've got a better chance. This was on January 7th. I've got a better chance of becoming the Texans' new head coach than Deshaun Watson has of being traded. Zach, I no longer see that as the governing, point of view here. I think it's got to happen. It's just a question to me now of when the Texans ultimately blink, and it's in their best interest, obviously, to do it before the draft.
Well, it's a little coincidental because Woody Page, who is like the John McClane of the Broncos, he was saying that Deshaun Watson has no interest in coming to Denver. And we all know by now that supposedly Watson is intrigued by Denver, or at least has some interest in coming to Denver. So, nobody really knows anything right now. But no one is disputing that Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback than Drew Lock. It's just the price, again, it would take to acquire him and the unknown that you'd be bailing on if you traded away from Drew Lock as a starter.
Joey, thank you for joining us on Twitch. Our Twitch audience is slowly but surely, it's growing over there. And so appreciate each and every one of you that give us some time and viewing us on Twitch. He says, I just have a strong feeling that Caleb Farley will struggle year one since he's been away from football more than a year. Patrick Surtain would be a surefire pick in year one, and Fangio can mold him to fit his scheme as he does. Yeah, I feel you on that. I really do. I understand the concern that Farley and Parsons, for what it's worth, if you were a prospect going into the 2020 season that had any kind, if your agent was telling you that you had first round caliber potential, buzz, whatever, so many of those guys just said, I'm opting out, I'm out. And Farley was one of them. So I feel you, but I still don't think it's as absolute as you make it out to be. Missing a year, I think they'll be fine for the most part.
I don't fault them at all. They're doing what's in the best interest of their NFL futures, and it's the same as any other player who skipped their senior season in college, Chad, and came out as a junior. They're doing what's in the best interest of where they think they are, and they're getting the best advice from their agent, from their parents. I'm not faulting Farley at all, and he's still atop my draft board at number 9 overall.
John Houston. John, you are just so dedicated and consistent as a superstar. It would be awesome to connect with you on Twitter. Even if you don't have a Twitter account, consider creating one and then connecting with Zach, myself, John, so that we can keep the conversation going, tag you, give you some love after each and every show. But thank you, bro. He says, at this point, I would go Surtain. We can't miss on this pick, meaning the ninth pick. You can't miss this important selection. His dad was a Pro Bowler, and he's better than his dad. True, he is better than Senior. Farley's injuries concern me a lot. I get that. I really do. Patrick Surtain Sr., for what it's worth, he was a legit, rock-solid NFL corner. I want to say 3-time Pro Bowler. I think he made 1 All-Pro team as well, Zach. And then, of course, he started as a Dolphin and then finished for several years as a Kansas City Chief. So a lot of Broncos fans don't love the Surtain name for that reason.
Yeah, I grew up in South Florida, and Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain, that duo at cornerback was just pretty lethal. Every prospect, for the most part, has injury concerns, so I'm not writing him off at all. Either the opt-out, injury concerns, Caleb Farley in this defense would be an all-star, and I can't wait for that to happen if he's the pick.
I'm grabbing this super from Rocco. By the way, great to see you again, Rocco. And then a really excellent point from Richie I want to grab. And then we're running out of time, so we'll rapid fire. We don't leave any of our superstars out in the cold here. Rocco, thank you, my friend. Good to have you back. He says, I'm back in the super chat. What's up, guys? Hashtag go Broncos. Good to see you, bro. Thank you. Richie, by the way, keep up the good work. I checked out one of your podcasts today, in fact, this morning while I had a little time, and I was like, I'm going to find something to put in my ears while I'm doing some busy work, and you guys are doing a good job over there at the Mile High Roundtable podcast, so keep up the good work. He makes a good point here, Zach. Pro Football Focus made a fatal flaw. They put 3 guys who had 100-plus receptions, then threw Beasley in there, who had sub-100 receptions, snubbed a bunch of others who were over 50, Patrick being one of them. This just is another illustration, Zach, that PFF loves to just kind of pick and choose who pick and choose what stats, which qualifiers fit whatever narrative they want to sell as far as content. They didn't want – those were the guys they wanted to talk about, so that's how they structured – that's how they tweaked, fit, edited the qualifier to fit under that umbrella.
Narrative is the buzzword, not just in the NFL, but in every facet of life right now in this digital era, Chad, where everyone has a soapbox. I'm not going to go into that rant. I'm not going to talk about politics, but there is nothing that's truly unbiased nowadays. There's bias in news organizations, in outlets, in media coverage, and in literally everywhere you go, everything you see, there's some sort of bias. So we all know now, and they've been exposed by the own players like Dalton Reisner as, I don't want to say fake news, but definitely not the all-knowing arbiter, Chad, that we used to look at them as.
Blue Raw, a.k.a. Chris, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the super. And it's a timely one. Thank you. He says, I'm here to say, pay Shelby. That is all. Yeah, we're with you on that. There needs to be another domino that falls, though, in order to kind of solidify that as a more likely result, and that is the Jurrell Casey situation, which up to this point, Zach, there hasn't been any movement. Jurrell Casey, as it stands, currently a Denver Bronco.
Yeah, I don't know how long that's going to stand for, but regardless, they should take care of Shelby Harris, take care of Justin Simmons. And again, you're sending the right message. They've been homegrown guys who have outperformed their respective contracts. Pay them, lock them down, and build the nucleus of your defense.
Jay Ritchie, by the way, I have you on the calendar to come on the show March 10th, but I didn't receive back 100% for sure that's going to work in the correspondence with you and the missus. So confirm that for me, will you? Appreciate you. He says, evening, fellas. Joined late. To get or not to get Watson. John Clayton published Denver as a top 2 team. McLean guaranteed otherwise. Where do we stand? So in case you missed it, and this was a really nice find, a good article that Luke Patterson published this afternoon. John Clayton, who is one of those very rare, most fans can remember John from all those years at ESPN, right? Mom, more meatloaf.
The commercials.
Those
Yes.
commercials.
Great.
He is now kind of, he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a writer. I mean, it's just hallowed ground. And he's doing some work with The Fan. He writes some digital content for him over at The Fan. Anyway, he came out and he said, I'll tell you exactly what he said according to Luke's article here. He said that the Broncos, quote, this is Clayton, the Broncos can be patient as long as they have Locke, who they're going to keep while they wait to see what happens with Watson. The 2 teams I see with a good chance to do something for Watson are Denver and Carolina, close quote. So that's what he's talking about there. And then meanwhile, as the very same John McClain that we just referenced a few minutes ago, a week or so back, he guaranteed that Deshaun Watson's not going to land in Denver, but he's got quite a few freezing cold takes. In retrospect, he makes a bold prediction, says something that's very out there, and you're like, all right, you know what you're talking about. You're Houston Chronicle, you're there, and then it blows up, and it's the exact opposite. So on this subject, I'm not going to take John McClain's word for it per se. I'm going to listen to what he says. You got to listen to a guy like him. But I don't think he's right on this. I think the Broncos, if and when the Texans make him available, Zach, the Broncos are going to have a shot.
I think he's right about one thing, though, and that's the Panthers' interest. I have this gut feeling like they're going to be the team that ends up getting Deshaun Watson if he's traded, because not only do they have the capital, they have a tantalizing first-round pick that's ahead of the Broncos, by the way, and they can offer more. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is worth more than any Broncos player they could offer. But they're also out of the AFC. They're in the NFC. And I think for Houston to sign off on that deal, that would be a big assuager for them. But we also had a report that came out from an ESPN account. It was an affiliate, I believe, of Clemson, that had the Broncos off of the list of Deshaun Watson's reported 3 favorite teams. I think it was the Jets, Dolphins, and 49ers or Panthers. I don't know the third one, but the Broncos were not on there. The point being, we've heard so many different things from so many different sources. The Broncos are among the top 3. The Broncos aren't even on the list at all. Let it play out a little more. Stop believing every little rumor that you're seeing and stop killing yourself emotionally over a trade that's probably not going to go down for a couple months, if at all.
Swag Nation, appreciate that super chat, my friend. What's that, John? Okay, yeah, we're over the 1 hour. Thank you. Appreciate that super chat, Swag. Connect with us on Twitter. He says, I really hope we run it back with our same offense, including Drew. We just need to upgrade the cornerback position. I'm seriously, guys, I am not scared of the idea. I'm excited about the idea of a Drew in his second year with the scheme. Hasn't had that since his sophomore to junior year at Missouri. I'm excited about the prospect of Drew coming back year 2 with a healthy Cortland, with a Jerry Jeudy, with their RFA tendered Tim Patrick. We'll see how that shakes out. with a Noah Fant, with an Alberto healthy, with a KJ Hamler. And hey, if you end up winning the lottery and you get also Juwan James at right tackle for 16 games, that's an offense to be reckoned with in my estimation, Zach.
This team is a lot closer than people realize. And if it weren't for the injuries and the pandemic and the poor coaching and the poor quarterbacking and the same litany of facts, not excuses that we go over every podcast, this could have been a 9-10 win team. And they still could be that if certain things fall into place. But I think it's indisputable, inarguable to say that the talent around the quarterback, no matter who it is fairly high.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of your take on Locke, you can't. That's one of the reasons that you got to believe Deshaun Watson likes the Broncos as a destination, even though there's the disincentivizing factor of thinking, man, I got to go against Mahomes and the Chiefs twice a year, but I got Jerry Jeudy, I got Cortland Sutton, I got Noah Fant, I got this phenomenal offense built around me if I end up in Denver, and I do have some pieces on defense. I do have a Bradley Chubb, although if you do land Deshaun, you might have to give up Bradley Chubb, but that's, we'll save that for another time. Dale, by the way, John, we got Dale, Base Case, Willie, and Michaela again, and then we're good. We can we'll dip out for tonight. But Dale, thank you for that super chat, bro. Good to see you. By the way, get on Twitter and connect with us. He says, I've heard some say draft a quarterback at 9. If Locke works out next season, you can trade that quarterback you drafted. Would you realistically get a top 10 pick for him? If not, I can't see how it would be worth it. So he's saying things he's heard that people are advocating for. Hey, regardless, just take a quarterback at 9. And if Locke ends up being the guy and proves that this year, then you could always just trade that guy. How realistic of a scenario could you see that being? Assuming it all came true, assuming Locke became a pop guy this year. I don't even know if there's a precedent other than Josh Rosen, but that was a huge tank situation.
That's what I was going to say. It's like buying a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it loses half its value. You're never going to get back what you invested in that first-round quarterback. So, for example, you draft, Trey Lance at number 9, and you go to trade him next year. You will not get a number 9 overall pick back. You'd be lucky to get the number 32 overall pick back. You're probably looking at a second-round pick or a combination of picks. I mean, look at Carson Wentz, Chad. He went for a second and a third. Conditional second, but a second in itself. Quarterbacks are devalued when you go to trade them and when we're not the starter. So it wouldn't be a 1-for-1 scenario. If you did that, you pretty much have to hope that quarterback that you draft becomes the guy.
Anthony, I wanted to grab this one real quick. I know we're on the other side of 60, but let me grab this from Anthony. He says, how much longer are we going to wait for Locke to develop? And if he doesn't pan out and we don't trade for Watson or draft one then, and next year's quarterback class isn't that good, we're stuck with a crappy QB situation next year. So the answer to the question is 1 year. You give it one more swing at the plate with Locke. If Paton ultimately does make a big quarterback move, whether it's acquiring Deshaun or drafting a Q in round 1, I think it's because he looks ahead to 2022, Zach, and doesn't like what he sees in the draft. But you know what? You can't read into that too much this late because, again, there are some cautionary tales there. Actually, it's the other way. There's some success stories, Zach, like Joe Burrow, number 1 pick this year in 2020, in the offseason of 2019, no one was talking about Joe Burrow as a first-round caliber quarterback. Nobody. He was a 5th, 6th, mid-round, late-round guy to everyone in the draft community. And so guys can pop. All it takes is that 1 year for a guy to pop and flash and show NFL teams really their full potential in the league, and it can reshape and totally change the way a class, shapes up at the quarterback position.
I guarantee you the number 1 projected overall pick in the 2022 mock draft now will not be the number 1 pick in reality in the 2022 draft. For the reasons you just said, Chad, there's always risers and fallers. Who saw Zach Wilson as being a potential number 2 overall pick in this draft class? You never really know. So you can't base your present around the future necessarily. You have to keep it in the present and live in the moment. If you decide you're going with Drew Lock this year, you got to go all in on this season and figure out 2022 when 2022 gets here.
Cross that bridge when you get to it, right? And I agree. Base Case, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. Excuse me. He says, will the Broncos reset the market with Justin Simmons? With a team that's rebuilding, maybe we tag and trade him instead of rolling with a second tag. So, Zach, you had an article on this last night. It sounds like they're going to tag him, but the recent reporting is that he and Peyton seem to be hitting it off and are a lot closer on a contract than they ever were last year with Elway.
They want to get done. They're talking right now, but the expectation, the way it's heading right now, is the franchise tag for a second year in a row. And it's not ideal because it would be a lower cap charge more than likely for Denver if they got a long-term deal done. But either way, I see Justin Simmons being the linchpin of Vic Fangio's defense once again. Whether that's a one-year tag or a long-term deal, I think he will be playing for the Broncos in 2021.
All right, let me look here. We got Willie and then one more, and I think we are on schedule. Where'd he go? There he is. Willie, appreciate you, bro. He says, I think people underestimate the damage not having Sutton did to Drew's year. It's obvious they had the chemistry to do good things this year. Yeah, I mean, it was a blow. There was still some talent there at wide receiver, but it was young. And even Tim Patrick, who you might not say popped like in the true sense of he's not like he was a 14. It wasn't like Brandon Lloyd circa 2010 coming out of nowhere and putting up 1,400 yards and just blowing down the doors. But still, Timmy P, very inexperienced himself. So that was the biggest thing, is there was talent there, Zach, but it was inexperienced talent that was themselves in their own way figuring out the NFL, whereas just like Drew, and whereas Sutton was a proven commodity stud, he had already kind of come into his own.
I have a homework assignment for everyone out there. As soon as this pod is over with, go on YouTube and look up Courtland Sutton's 2019 touchdown from lock against the Chargers, because no other receiver could do anything near what he did on that touchdown reception, where he snatched the ball out of thin air with one hand while diving, while being interfered with. Locke put it near him, but Courtland Sutton made the play. So absolutely losing a top 10 receiver, your number one guy who kind of came up with you, a young receiver, young quarterback, you have that chemistry, you lose him, and you're throwing to a pair of rookies. Come on, man. What do you expect?
Michaela, thank you again for that super, my friend. She says, what is your opinion about if the current regime does not work out, maybe having Mike Munchak become the next Broncos head coach? I understand it because there's so much to like about Munchak as a coach, period. But I had to really sell myself on the notion of the Broncos hiring Munchak, because he was one of the 5 guys Elway interviewed when they hired Fangio, right? Munchak, Fangio,
Pagano, no?
Pagano, yeah, Zach Taylor, and then Brian Flores. Those were the 5. And I had to reach out to all my contacts in the NFL and people that I knew Mike Munchak and say, help me understand why this would be a good hire, because I didn't see it. He's a great position coach, the best currently in the league, O-line, Mike Munchak. But I think if you get to that point, Zach, where you got to turn over the coaching staff again, you got to go with an innovative hire at that point. You got to go with someone who can move the needle. And I'm just not sure, even though he had a modest amount of success in Tennessee before he flamed out, that Mike's that guy.
The Broncos are learning firsthand that some coaches are lifelong positional coaches. Some coaches are lifelong assistants. And I think Vic Fangio is a great defensive coordinator. So far, not a great head coach. And in Mike Munchak's brief head coaching tenure, not a great head coach, but one of the best, if not the best OL coaches in the business, Chad. So he should probably stay that way. If there is a new regime coming in next year, I would look for Bill Kollar and Mike Munchak to get first consideration to be on that staff.
I'm going to grab this question from Drew, and then we're going to go. But first, we need to get a soundboard with this rim shot sound for excellent dad jokes like this one from Charlie Beagle. My car is biased because it has anti-lock brakes. That's good stuff. All right. Drew Love, one of our supporters on Facebook. He gives up stars. He's very supportive of what we're doing. Appreciate you, Drew. I think the last question of tonight, how much do you guys think it'll take to re-sign Shelby Harris? So Zach, last year, Spot Track projected him as like an $11.7 million per year guy. And obviously the NFL did not share a brain with Spot Track on that. However, this year I think they will. Maybe not exactly $12 million a year, but something $10 million I think is the floor for what Shelby will be able to command this time around in free agency.
I think the domino that has to drop, Chad, I'm not really familiar with the defensive line class this year in free agency, but J.J. Watt, wherever he goes and the contract he gets, I know he's an edge guy, and Shelby's more of could be an interior defensive lineman in some packages, but I don't know about $10 million. I think he's not really there yet in the NFL, the value system league-wide. I do believe he'll get 8, 9 a year, maybe 3 years, 30 mil at most. But I think you should do that if you're the Broncos, because look what you're paying Jarrell Casey. Was he making 11, 12 this year? So if you're going to get a better talent for your defense, you're younger, higher upside, I believe splurging 8, 9, 10 a year, that's where I would stop for someone like Shelby Harris.
And if you're right on that, I think one of the reasons why is he missed 4 games because of the word that shall go unmentioned. And he was really feeling it, man, at that point in the season. Like he had clearly proven at this point, not only was last year not a flash in the pan, but like I've actually developed as a run defender. Like he was showing I got a complete game to offer an NFL team, and then he missed a month because of that freaking virus. So we'll see how it shakes out. 2 more that have popped in, and then we really got to go. Jesse, appreciate you. He says, my mock, trade back, get J.C. Horn, the South Carolina corner, late round 1, Richie Grant, the safety, and Jabril Cox in round 2, Rondale Moore from Purdue, and Paulson Adeboye, I don't know how to pronounce that, from Stanford in the 3rd and 4th, an offensive tackle in the 5th. Hey, man, I love it. That's cool. I could live with that.
I could too. Richie Grant is one of my favorite prospects in this draft class. And Horn, I mean, there's some mocks that have him as a better cornerback over Surtain. So I would not cry if that was the scenario as well.
Ian, appreciate the stars. He says, no way we're keeping Simmons. No way we're keeping, Simmons. He's a key. We hope so. Bro. Willie, last one, and then we're out of here. We really do got to dip on out. Sutton's highlights prompted my comment. Spot on. Yep. We feel you. We do feel you. All right. I think we took care of everybody. So, guys, as we sign off for tonight, thank you so much for spending some time with us here this evening and helping to make this conversation, which has now gone, an hour and 17 minutes, as fun and engaging as it has been. It really is just, we get such a kick out of this every single night, being able to talk with you all in real time. Shout out to David Kilgore. Follow him on Twitter at RockingK77. Great dude. And just rock solid MHH supporter. And an OG dating all the way back. Rogue Theory jumping in late. Joshua, thank you, bro.
Thank you.
No questions. Short on time. Hashtag Huddle Up Pod Squad. Love it, dude. But guys, as we dip out of here, we'll be back tomorrow night for the Mile High Mailbag. And we'll do the best we can to get to as many questions as possible. But make sure you follow on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. The main account. Good night, Michaela. At Mile High Huddle. Zack Kelberman at Kelberman NFL. Myself at Chad and Jensen. Our producer, you all know and love him in the chat as Buana Beast. On Twitter, it's at John K. MHH. Follow him there. And then check out the merch store, huddleuppod.com, when you get some time. Get your swag on. And consider becoming a VIP supporter of Mile High Huddle on Facebook and getting access to not only Kelberman's Corner, but the other shows that we're debuting here in the very, very near future for our VIP supporters. So thank you. Please like the video before you get out of here and share it if we did a good job for you. Other than that, Zach, sign us off and we'll circle back tomorrow night.
Have a great night, Chad. Have a great night, John. Have a great night, everyone else out there. We will see you tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Mile High Mailbag. If you have any questions, let us know on Twitter. Hit us up. We'll get to it. Have a great night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.